las oportunidades de llegar al final. La ira de la gente crece igual que su necesidad, tomando riesgos día a día, buscando aquel lugar.
All right, the soothing sounds of Mexican musician Quique Escamilla, a Juno Award-winning artist who calls Toronto home. Quique, though, is also making headlines now for posting on his Instagram account back last month that he has decided to cancel his upcoming performances in the United States because of the ongoing situation with those ICE agents.
So joining us live now in the studio to talk more about his decision to halt tours in the U.S. is Quique Escamilla. Quique, good morning. Thank you so much for coming in to talk about this. I think that your sentiment right now about traveling to the U.S. is not unique. Many people that we know personally have also expressed the same fears of their safety for going down to a place that used to be a vacation destination. And for many artists like you, this must be tough for your career as well.
Yes, for many reasons it's been tough to make a decision that, you know, we've been working on planning for almost 12 months in advance, 10 months in advance. That's how it usually works with tours and getting the visas in place and all the documents required for those work visas and all. And then when you have to cancel after what we heard, what we saw, all the multiple cameras, we saw the injustices, the most recent injustices, then you're like, well, it doesn't make sense. It's not safe for everybody. It's not safe for myself, precisely for myself. And then also, you know, it's something bigger that it requires sacrifices right now, you know, and that's what my part I can do is just canceling is the right decision at this point, even though obviously it hurts financially. But it's important to also represent, put a little pressure that I'm not going to take that stand or take that step and cross that line where I don't feel safe to cross the border when I have documentation that allows me to do my work. And also in support of the Latin community, not only, but also for, you know, the American community. Now,
what combination would you say your decision is politics and what combination is fear? Because you mentioned safety, but you also mentioned a lot of politics as well.
Yeah, politics has been in my music, and I don't want to politicize something. It affects me to decide on this, but also it's important to remind people in these times that this is not something new. That this is something that's been going on, and sometimes we forget. We forget so many things that are very related. You know, so many things, so many stories of people who are sustaining that country's economy, also our Canadian economy. You know, a lot of people that come, migrant workers that dedicate so much effort and sacrifices back home for us to have tomatoes, for us to have vegetables in Canada, so is in the U.S. You know? So it's important to connect them all, to link all the pieces. And then there's we're talking about racism and discrimination. This is nothing new. It's been going on for centuries. We have a lot of history to talk about that, but it's important to connect it to today. If you feel disgusted by what's going on, it's nothing new. You just didn't have the time to look at the screen or didn't hear the stories. And that's why I'm also making a little bit of a statement, because it affects me directly, but also it affects millions of my people and millions of Latin Americans. And I think it's time for us to take a stand and speak, you know?
So. And there, of course, is also the real issue of safety. I mean, did you ever think that in your day you would be, because of your skin color and how you look, you would be openly targeted when traveling to our neighbor country?
Yes, I was touring all 2025. I was going into the U.S. and it was the weirdest feeling of fear crossing with, you know, either by plane or by road, not knowing how they're going to see you, how they're going to treat you, go to secondary. Okay, well, here's my documentation again. And after I still, you know, when I pushed through, and every time I felt like, I'm not sure if I'm going to be back in Toronto. Like I had to make arrangements in my home, like make sure all the windows are closed because I don't know. This trip might be a longer trip with all the stories of ICE, you know, the detentions. But then it increased and increased, and to the point that after the horrible, you know, injustices of January 7th, then I was like, there's no way I can continue to do this. And with all the pain and all the, you know, this pleasure in my stomach, I had to make the calls and cancel shows that were booked 12 months
like
in
you
advance.
said, yeah, exactly. It's been a while. What's the reaction been like, from your fans? And you put this out on Instagram, you're making it very public. I'm sure there's disappointment, but I'm sure there's support as well. Could you just sort of encapsulate what you've heard from your fans?
Well, a lot of people, I have learned a lot through that post. It's been even more evident and clear that it was the right decision, but that's on my terms. But mostly I'm learning from people. A lot of Americans joined the conversation. I was not expecting that. I was obviously sharing it with people that I was going to go and play for, but mainly the surprise to me has been that a lot of Americans are expressing their concern, and I have heard things on my comments that I'm like, wow, I never thought an American person would actually ask for something that you wouldn't imagine, years. And I don't have the answer right now, but I need to make a statement that this is important, that it's a bigger conversation, and that we live in a society that is still learning about realities like what's going on.
Absolutely.
The hunt.
Yeah.
It's horrible to call it the hunt, but it is a hunt.
No, it really feels like ugly pieces of history are reemerging, and we've seen it all too clearly in the past. Unfortunately, it doesn't seem like we've learned from it. Music is a universal language, but it seems like freedom these days, personally, may not be. Quique, really appreciate you coming on to share your story with us, and good luck with everything in the future.
Yeah, thanks very much. Nice to meet you this morning. Appreciate this. Thank you very much.